Hi, it's Rita, and this week I'm really pleased to bring you a different format podcast. It is one where you get to come in to my accountability group, and it's an accountability group that I love dearly, that we've been together for 4 years. This week I'm joined by Samantha Jung-Fielding and 𝗵𝗺 𝗵𝗲 both are thought leaders in different areas. So Samantha is a intuitive guide for the C-suite. And so you'll hear more about that in the opening. Sam does a beautiful introduction. And 𝗵𝗺's work and thought leadership is all about helping people to and understand each other and to be understood. And that's the title of her new book, which was just recently published. So it's a bit like, the story of the Canadian, the Australian and the New Zealander walk into a bar. And while we don't walk into a bar every week, we do virtually come into this Zoom room and hold each other to account every week. So our accountability group has been going for 4 years. I advocate the use of accountability groups a lot in my Deliberate Leader programs. And this week I wanted to share with you what our accountability group looks like. And you'll see that dynamic between the three of us. We have some questions around, what's really helped us to stand the test of time in terms of continuing to meet. And we come up with some pretty cool ideas through our discussion around what's led to that. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope that it encourages you to form an accountability pod with some people that are going to help to hold you to account, but where you can also, as 𝗵𝗺 says, provide that active service for them. Enjoy. A very warm welcome to everybody this week on the Deliberate Leader podcast. It is a completely different format this week because I am joined by two of my favourite people that light up my week, 𝗵𝗺 deBruijn, Samantha Jung-Fielding. Welcome to you both.
Hello,
Yes.
hello.
So the reason this is a different format is because normally it's just either me talking or me interviewing one guest. And yes, there are 2 guests, which make it different. But this week, I wanted to bring in my accountability partners because we have been together as an accountability group for 4 years. We're actually going, is it 4.5? Might be 4.5. Don't know. I'm not good at the math. These two are though. So we have been meeting though for a very, very long time, and we meet every Friday at this time. And so a couple of weeks ago, I said, why don't we just record a live accountability chat on the podcast, which is what we're now doing. And I know that I mention accountability groups in a lot of my leadership development programs, and I wanted to bring you a taste of what a real accountability partner conversation looks like, and we do this every week. So that's the format for today. So a very warm welcome to you both.
Thank you so much for having us. I've got to ask you, Rita, do you know where the idea of accountability buddies comes from? Because I did a bit of research when we knew we were going to be doing this, and I was fascinated to discover. Have you any idea?
Absolutely not. I thought it was one of my harebrained ideas, but it's clearly not. It's been done before.
It's definitely been done before. And apparently, this is what I found when I was searching online. Google is your friend. It comes from the whole Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program. The idea of having a buddy who's going to be your sponsor to help you to achieve your goal of, in that case, sobriety. Is ours all about sobriety, team? I'm just checking. Am I in the right?
I don't know, a Friday morning, maybe.
Friday morning, yeah.
Well, it's not Friday morning for us, because,
Yeah.
for 𝗵𝗺, it's not. 𝗵𝗺, where are you coming in from?
So I am coming in from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Yes, so it is Thursday afternoon for me. So we meet my Thursday afternoon and your Friday morning.
Yeah, and it's
one of the questions we always ask is, how's your weather?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. It is true. Our weather, as we are going into spring and soon to be summer. So we are on the flip side of your seasons. And yeah, it's been a beautiful spring day. The snow is melting and lots of sunshine. So it's a good weather day here.
Samantha and I are in the southern hemisphere. Sam, you can tell people where you're from in a moment, but we are always like, so how cold is it? Because 𝗵𝗺's cold is our beyond freezing. We're often hearing of -35 °C, while sometimes here in Melbourne it's been +35 °C. So we do often talk about the weather, but it's never boring. We do often start there.
Yes.
Sam, where are you coming in from?
I'm coming in from the Bombay Hills, which is the southeast part of South Auckland, just above the Waikato in New Zealand.
There you go. So I say to people, this could start like the joke. There was a New Zealander, a Canadian, and an Australian, and they walked into, we don't walk into a bar, just to not continue with the theme of Alcoholics Anonymous. We do jump on this in this exact format as you're seeing today with our visuals, and we jump on every week, and we've been doing so for 4 years. So I'm coming in from Melbourne, Australia, for those of you that do not know. And so what I thought is that it would be lovely just to hear from Samantha and Maria in terms of what they do, so you can get a quick sense of who they are, what they do, what their practice is about, what's the difference that they make here in the world. And then we've all come up with 1 or 2 little accountability questions that we wanted to ask each other. And the purpose of this is really to maybe encourage you to think about, if I was to put together an accountability pod, what would that look like? What could this accountability pod provide me? Because it's provided, I'll speak for myself here, but it's provided me with an abundance of richness, ideas, a safe place for me to bounce ideas. You know, over the years, we've got to know each other quite well personally. Samantha and I have never met face-to-face. Maria and I have met once because we did a course together in Sydney. So, but, you know, it feels like I've known these ladies for decades. And so, yeah, we wanted to give you a little insight into that today. Sam, do you want to kick us off? What do you do? What's the difference you make in this world?
Oh, absolutely. I do intuitive happiness for busy entrepreneurs. So the work that I do is, you know, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit woo, but it's a lot of fun. And so I'm helping people who just need a little bit of spiritual guidance. Someone said to me yesterday, "You're the spiritual guide for the seas." Now, that's not the seas as in the oceans. That's the sea as in the C-suite executives. And I absolutely love that. I thought that was so much fun. So yeah, my work is around helping people to see the differences that are not always apparent, the hidden differences that are out there in the spiritual or mystical realms. I love what I do.
No, I love the insights that you bring, because often Maria and I are going, oh my gosh, it's probably often me going, yes, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, and there's a calmness that comes with that. So I love that. So the spiritual guide for the seas, for the C-suite. Yep, lovely.
Yeah.
And I love that someone else has bestowed that on you, because it's often nice to hear reflected back how other people are receiving the work that we do. Yeah, lovely. Maria, what difference are you making here on this planet?
So I specialize in working with senior leaders to create work environments where people feel engaged and joyful about being at work. So I just released my first book, which was called Understood, The Greatest Human Need and the Key to Engagement. And in that book, I focus on 9 principles that leaders can put in place to support shared understanding in the workplace, and helping people feel understood when they are at work, which is shown to be a significant factor in people's engagement and how they perform.
Yeah, and I feel as we've written books, as we've developed card sets, as we have launched podcasts, released newsletters over the 4 years, I feel like we are so invested in each other's stuff, because we've seen the birth of Understood. Sam, we've seen what you've been able to do with the books you've written in the past, and how you've turned them into something different, the card sets that you've come up with, and even through the publication of my book and the little one before that. We've really shared the celebrations, but also the trials and tribulations that come with birthing those kinds of things, because it's a bit of a process.
It most certainly is. And we get to be the first people. We get to be part of the process, part of the feedback of that bit shouldn't be in there, but try this bit instead.
True.
Yeah, we're often behind the scenes, aren't we? We're testing things. I know I've launched a new website only 2 weeks ago, and these lovely ladies had an opportunity to go in. You know, I remember sharing logos. What do you reckon about the color? What do you reckon about the font? Like, that's the detail that we get into, because let's face it, you can show your family, but they're like, oh, Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks. And I want to move on to the other stuff. It's not that I don't find our stuff interesting, but I think when you are invested in this accountability type of group, there's something different in there. And there are often questions and ideas that you can only bounce with this kind of group.
Very true. Very true, Rita. And it's one of the things that I've so much appreciated. I mean, having gone through written a book, having you and Sam as the two people that I could share ideas with, test ideas with, and get really valuable feedback and objective feedback. I think that's one of the other key things. So you mentioned, you know, asking your friends or your family, for example, and sometimes you don't quite get the answer that you're hoping for because they don't want to hurt your feelings, because they know how hard you're working. So this has been just such a great group for me, having going through that creative process. And hopefully I've been able to provide a little bit of support to each of you as you've gone through your creative processes too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yesterday, it reminds me of a little story. My brother is dabbling in a little bit of comedy work, and he did a little skit. So he watched a clip of a movie, famous movie, Liam Neeson, Taken, and he's gone and redone that skit, but through, or not the skit, but the monologue through a different lens. And kind of bringing in our ethnic background. And anyway, he said to me, "Can I send it to you? Because I want to ask your view on whether you think it's funny, because my wife doesn't think it's funny." So my sister-in-law was like, "That's not funny." And he's like, "I'm going to ask my sister and see if she thinks it's funny." So he sent it to me, and I had not watched the movie, but I watched the monologue and then watched his take on it. And I was laughing. So I wrote back and I went, "Yeah, this is really good." Like, the first thing I said to him is, and it brought a tear to my eye because he looked so much like my dad. So for those of you, you know, many of you know my dad passed 3 years ago. So he looked so much like my dad in the skit. And then he's done the little piece, and I was laughing. So I wrote back and I went, "Yes, this is funny." And he's like, "Should I post it?" And I went, "Well, it depends. Are you auditioning for some kind of comedy group? Like, you know, what's your impact that you're wanting to have here?" But it is absolutely. I did have to think about, and he might tune in at some point to this, and hello, David, if you're listening. But I did have to think about, well, I did have that moment of, if it's not funny, I don't want to tell them it's not funny. You know, so yeah, so our family are often, you know, as much, they love us, they don't want to disappoint us. And it's not that it's not that any of us actually want to disappoint each other, but we will give each other that objective feedback, as we have many, many, many times over the 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember I didn't like one of the colours on your logo.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, "Don't like that colour."
Exactly right. But that's the thing with feedback, right? Like, we have to, when we're going to ask for feedback, whether it's from an accountability group or not, we've got to be prepared. But not, you know, we don't ask for the feedback so people agree with us. But, you know, it's then we've got a choice around what we do with it, you know, and I think it's always useful to hear those views. I've got a question which I didn't ask you, a pre-advanced question, but then I'm going to shut up for a bit because I want you two to ask the questions too, right? What do you reckon has created that safety and trust for us that means we can objectively give that feedback? Because even in friendship groups that last decades, sometimes you don't get that sense of, "I'm just going to give it to you straight," in terms of that feedback. Why do you think, like, is that unique to us? Do you think, what have we done to foster that trust amongst ourselves?
It's a really good question.
I
And
start.
maybe it comes down to the whole, my research again, when I was looking into accountability buddies, and it said there's 2 types, psychologically speaking, 2 types of accountability buddy. The first type being kind of like the more supportive, I'm going to empathize because we're on the same path, we're trying to reach the same goal. And then the second type is much more the wise mentor. I'm going to add into your path from my own experience. So, of course, my question is going to be, who do we think we are, each of us? But I wonder if it's that's what's built the trust. It's the empathy to begin with, because we all started on the same path. We were following a similar program. We'd all joined together with the same program. So there was a joined goal. There was somewhere we were trying to reach. But I think over the years, it has become as well, each of us has been sharing our wisdom at a particular moment that's been totally pertinent to the person on the receiving end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with how we've shown up for one another. So there have been lots of successes, but there's been some trials along the way. And I think that that's where you really start to build the trust, is when you share something and you know that people are, as Sam said, empathizing with you, but also really have this huge demonstration of care for your well-being, that really makes a huge difference. And when you sense that and feel that, then I mean, automatically you just kind of feel like, well, I can open up here. I'm in a safe place. So I think some safety has been created just through the different interactions that we've had and the experiences that we've had, and each of us showing up in a really supportive way and cheering each other on.
I totally agree. And I remember the very early on in our friendship, in our accountability path, we were all giving ourselves what we're going to be doing before we meet again kind of goals. What's our next steps? And I remember I had a particularly bad week and I hadn't done what I'd said, what I'd laid myself out as going to be doing next. And I came onto the call, and Maria, it was you that said to me, Sam, just give yourself some grace. And I remember feeling at that time that that was the best thing anyone could have said to me. But because it came from an academically focused, professional mind, it felt like it wasn't just my hubby or my child saying, oh, you know, just kick back and, you know, just take a day out. It was said with professional empathy. And that to me at the time was worth more than anything else could have been.
Yeah. That care is there. And I think, so for those of you that are thinking, you know, we've told you that we speak, we do speak about once a week. I think now the cadence is starting to drop off as we get busier, but we're always coming back. So that is a remarkable feature, I think, of this accountability group, that we may go 2 or 3 weeks without speaking, but we will be in contact on WhatsApp, and then we come back same time, you know, kind of same place, Friday morning my time. I think that consistency, to build on what you said there about the empathy, the safety, the sharing, aspects of vulnerability that, you know, that mean we've tested our ideas and really been vulnerable with each other. But that consistency for me is also a driving factor, because we have just continued to show up. And I, you know, gee, I haven't been in jobs sometimes for 4 years, let alone an accountability pod, you know, for 4 years. You know, for me, that this is, I so look forward to these conversations. And I think, you know, I agree with you, that empathy is there, that care for each other is there. We know each other well now, like we know what's going on. We can pick up, you know, when something's a bit off. And so, yeah, it still has a very professional feel to it. We'll still say, oh, I'm doing this, and, you know, this is my goal. We'll still do that for each other, less now, probably more so than what we did in the beginning. But it's still, now it's got a deeper kind of connection to it too. So I'm going to ask another question. I'm going to hand it over to one of you, which will kind of, from a body language perspective, work out amongst yourselves who wants to go next.
Oh, it's definitely going to be Maria, because I always go first.
Well, all right. Okay. Let me see. Where should we start? I would like to know, what is one thing that you've learned about accountability itself based on your experience of being in this accountability group? So one thing that you've learned as a result about accountability.
You want to go, Sam?
Okay. I think for me, accountability is not about, in the nicest possible way, you two. It's actually about me. It's always all about me. But here it is again, being about me. It's, you guys are hugely helpful to help me to do the things I want to commit to do, and to let go of the things that really I'm at the end of. And I think that's one of the things, we're really hard on ourselves sometimes. You know, you start and so you must finish. But I think having an accountability partner who can actually say to you, does it make sense to continue with that? Or could it look better if you tried it like this? And to me, that's been huge for me around accountability. Accountability starts with me, ends with me. But thanks to your input, it changes me along the way.
That's amazing. Thanks, Sam.
I think I agree, Sam, completely. I love, because it is about us, you know, whilst we're holding space for others, it's there's something we absolutely come in because we want to get something out of it too. So I think that that's important if you're developing an accountability pod. It's that give and take, and it's not all selfless. I don't want to say it's selfish, but you're coming in with that I'm going to provide, but I also need something, from this group. So there's for me, that's an energy exchange and a dynamic that's created, and because it's very activated like that excites me and goes, yeah, I want to be in, right? There's nothing passive about this. What I've learned about accountability is that it's okay to show up, and this kind of builds, Sam, on what you were saying before when Maria gave you that advice around giving yourself some grace. In the past, I would have been really hung up on turning up to a group going, well, this is what I've done and this is what I've got to share. So I would have done all my homework, right? And I would have come in prepared, because that was important from a brand perspective, like showing up, having done the work, being prepared, looking like I've always got my shit together. As I approach the later stage of my 4th decade, what I've realized is that no one gives a shit whether you've got your shit together. And in fact, the more I've had my shit together, the more I have become like a person that people can't connect with, because people want to see your fallacies. They want to see that you don't always have your shit together, that you have crappy days. So for me, accountability has meant that I can be vulnerable, like come in and go, I actually don't know. That's why I need the help, because I don't know, versus, oh, here's a little thing I've prepared earlier. And I think it's pretty good. Like, I think it's 90% there. And now I'm going to give it over to you to critique the last 10%.
Yeah.
So for me, it's brought about a sense of it's okay to not know. It's okay to tap in for others to the wisdom. It's okay not to have it perfect. And having your shit together is a bit too perfect with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has their shit together all the time, people. I am the least shit together person that I know. But on the outside, I can put on a good view if needed.
Yeah. The duck. How about you, Maria? Are you going to answer your own question?
Sure. Yeah.
Answer it. What about you?
So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I think I look at accountability as an act of service. So when you join an accountability group, I think what you're saying, Rita, resonates with me in the fact that, yes, you're showing up in service to yourself, so that you are being part of a group to help elevate yourself, to progress, and to help yourself perform at your best. And you're showing up in an act of service to others, to make offerings. So I think it's a bit of both. I also think that being accountable is one of the greatest acts of care that you can demonstrate to someone else. And I think that starts with being present with one another. And so that's the piece that I think I've learned the most out of this group. So I think we've all come with our things and our questions and our ideas, and we're looking for input and we're looking for feedback, and it's all fantastic, and we get all of those things. But that's given in the context of really caring about the other person and what they're trying to accomplish. So I think those are the things that have really risen to the top, and what I've taken away from being part of an accountability group is really, what does accountability mean to me? And those are the two things, kind of acts of service and care. Yeah.
For those of you that are just listening to the audio, Sam and I are just smiling, because there's moments of silence, because we're like, yes, it deeply resonates. And that will often happen with us. Like someone will say something and we'll just go, yeah, and we'll just take a breath and take a moment. So you're getting the real and raw in terms of what we do. I said I wasn't going to ask another question, but this one's... So there's 3 of us. We started off with 3 of us. We put a call out for as many. I didn't have a cap. Like when I put the call out, I was like, whoever wants to join. I really wanted a group that I could connect with, and that could hold me to account, and I could hold them to account. I think there's something quite magical about our group of 3. What do you reckon it would look like if we had 5 or 6?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think anytime that you add numbers, it becomes a little bit, it always becomes a little bit more challenging to connect. And I think that it becomes a bit more, it can become, doesn't always, it can become a bit more mechanistic, because you're trying to provide space or create space for more voices. And so you can maybe put a bit more structure around that, versus when you've got, 3 of us, we're very respectful of the fact that we've got things each of us wants to share, but it's much more, I think you use the word organic, Rita, where it's just, it becomes a more organic conversation. So, just going back to this idea of being in service, when you have a larger group and you've got 5 people and you've got, let's say, an hour for your group, you want to be in service to everybody and create space for everybody. So that becomes a bit, I think you have to put a little bit more structure around it, whereas ours feels just a little more free flowing. That's I think the differentiator that pops into my mind anyway.
I agree, and I would ask the question of how would extras serve at the moment in this group. But if I was starting a new group and that was perfect, I would then be considering why 5 or 6, because quantity is one thing, but you have to get the right 5 or 6. So the quality is the other aspect to it. And I think there is, for me personally, there's a third aspect. What is the goal of bringing those 5 to 6 people together? So I've done a lot of building groups that are for referral marketing or referral networking. And the goal then is always to have more people. The bigger, the better. You're looking to go from a group that starts at maybe 15 or 20 people that goes to around 40 people. And as Maria said, completely structured so that everybody still gets an opportunity to participate. But the interesting factor in such a large group is the relationships behind the scenes. And so here, our relationships behind the scenes are Sam and Rita, Sam and Maria, Maria and Rita. That's it. But once you've got 5 or 6, it becomes much more complex, much more numerous in those relationships, and the dynamics then change considerably. So for me, I would be like Maria. I'd be wondering how we would actually do it, how it could be of service, but I would also be thinking, actually, in our goal, is that even going to be useful?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, we're not recruiting for an additional accountability member of the group. Let me just say that. And that's very rude on behalf of me. I don't know what you two think. I think I've got your view though. No, I don't think I actually think our group is quite 3. I reckon is magical. And I would not normally say that, because you know how normally, like in a program, you might set people up as accountability partners. You might have a group of 5 or 6 to bring out that discussion. But I agree wholeheartedly. Our 3 means that there's no splits, because it's always the 3 of us, right? We're always on. Very rarely do we just meet the 2 of us. We have in the past, but it's rare. Like usually we're like, no, we'll wait until the other person's free and then we'll catch up again. So there's something very magical about the 3 of us. And I think there's nowhere to run or hide, because you can't hide in a group of 5. Like in 5 or 6, you might, no time for me to say anything. That's good. I don't have anything to be accountable for this week. No. So you kind of have got that, I could hide behind someone else. But in a group of 3, you can't. And I think in a partnership, I think it would look very different too, and not as dynamic, because you're always, I think then you might get into that mix of a little bit like a friend or family member that doesn't really want to hurt your feelings. So it's just the 2 of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree.
Yeah. And the more people with 3 of us, we get more diversity in the thought, I think. But I totally agree with what you're saying, as far as, you add more people and it's easy to hide in that space, right? Like you can be like, okay, no, you ran out of time. That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll pick you up next week.
Nowhere to run or hide in here. Nowhere to run or hide.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, go for it, Sam.
I was just going to say, I've got a great question that adds on to it then, because this for me is my first virtual accountability group. So the difference between meeting virtually and meeting in person, does that add or detract from the accountability? I'm going to ask Rita, because Rita, this was your idea. And where you live in Australia, the program that we all joined at the time is founded in Australia. So there could have been a possibility of doing a physical accountability group, but for you, it came together as virtual. So benefits?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are benefits. We have less barriers around meeting up because it's easy for us to meet up. I mean, Marie's met with us from Costa Rica on several occasions. We've all been in different places. Like I've been in different parts of Victoria, not as exotic as Costa Rica, Maria. But we have met in different places and virtually, so we've got no barriers because we are meeting virtually, bar time difference. And we did, as much as COVID's such a who cares 5 years ago, but we did form our group just post. It was the end of that 2020 year, when our world changed, and I think, I think we were much more open to this. Oh yeah, if it's virtual, because the whole world had gone online and virtual at that point. So I think it was like, oh yeah, this is just more of the same. I love that we meet virtually. As I said, for me, there's no barriers. And it's really interesting. I love that I've got two mates in different parts of the world that I wouldn't otherwise have. Like, I love it. And I want to come and visit both of you, in your places at some point. I'm just inviting myself, by the way. So yeah, just get a room ready for me wherever you are, wherever your home is. No, I'm joking. But I'd love to come and visit you because I think now it is like a long lost friend that you go and visit, and for me, it's interesting. Not that my Australian buddies and my Melburnian buddies are not interesting, of course.
That's so true. And you know what? I'm dying to see your kitchen refit because we heard about the whole thing all the way through, didn't we, Maria? Do you remember?
We did. We heard all of the painstaking renovations that took place.
There's to embark on the front and back garden if you don't get divorced beforehand, because like renovations have a thing of bringing out the best and the worst in relationships. But we're nearly there on design. But yeah, what about for you guys?
What do you think?
I would say so it's funny because there's always this talk about, you don't get the connectivity or the connection. You can't build that as well when you're in an online environment. And maybe it is group size that has a bit to do with our ability to connect. But I think it's just a willingness to be in that space and a recognition that there's still value in building the relationships, even if you're doing it through a screen. I think you're right. Like the circumstances certainly favored us in learning quickly and being able to connect virtually, being in COVID. I also think that it's just time with one another. And I think that when you're committed to being in that group and you're invested in making that a priority in your calendar, whether it's in person or virtual, I think over time, the connection just builds. It's regardless if you're in person meeting for a coffee every week, or if you're on a screen every week, you're going to learn about the other person. You're going to learn what's going on in their lives. And I don't think you necessarily have to be face-to-face to do that. And like you, I am so very appreciative of the fact that I have two friends that are in the Southern Hemisphere now. And, when I saw Rita in person for the first time, we had already been in this group for 3 years. And we didn't miss a beat. Like, it was like we had known each other forever. So, I think it just depends on the mindset you go into the space with. But for us, I feel like it has worked tremendously well, but we've also been very committed to it.
I completely agree. I'm no longer even in the program that we all joined when we set this accountability group up. And yet we still choose to meet. And at the time when I left that program, I remember feeling that I would be so lost without you. and you were both like, oh, no, we definitely want to continue. It doesn't matter that you're not following the same program. We're invested in one another's lives as well as one another's businesses. But I think for me, the results speak for itself. I have been in a number of accountability groups over the years. This is the only accountability group that has lasted for 4 years, where we still meet every week and we still have new things that we're working on together, and we're still all moving forwards. COVID was an absolutely awful time for me, and I've spoken about it on many occasions, how many of my face-to-face friends here in New Zealand, the people I met with every single week because I would do regular face-to-face referral networking meetings, many of them literally turned their backs on me because I made a decision to remain unvaccinated. And it didn't matter to you guys whether I was vaccinated or not because we were virtual, but it wasn't so much about the physicality of germ spreading. It was that we just wanted to keep on helping and supporting one another. It meant the world to me then, and it still means the world to me now that we have this. And I have a German husband, and you know, he's pretty straight up, and he says things the way that they just come out of his mouth, no filter whatsoever. And bless him, I'll often talk about the fact I'm jumping on my call with my Australian and my Canadian friends, and he has a tendency to turn around and go, well, if they're virtual friends, they can't really be friends, because he's watched my children who do a lot of the virtual gaming with online mates. And he's like, no, they can't really be mates. And yet, in this instance, I would say that you guys are some of the people I hold closest to my heart.
Likewise.
Likewise. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh.
We're all
right.
a virtual hug.
Yeah, we are.
I come off this call every week thinking I've had a virtual hug. The energy in our Zoom room is just awesome. I really love the fact that virtual or not, this raises the vibe that's within me that I'm then going to take into the rest of my day. Maria, I don't know how you sleep afterwards.
I know, sure at the after.
I know, it's true. I do get a real energy boost, and then it's like, okay, so I try to go out for a walk or do, you know, I get my dinner ready. So, but it's all, my mind is always going afterwards, and I'm writing things down, and yeah, it's a huge energy boost and lift. Definitely.
And we've never changed the time for our meeting, despite the fact that, of course, we're in different time zones. So for half the year, it actually is, it's changed on the diary, on our automatic diary as to which time we're meeting. But we've never moved. We've always been in this slot, which is quite amazing, really, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, we did very well picking the time initially.
And I think that's part of the consistency factor, isn't it? Like when it just works, it works. Yeah. It makes it easier to commit to it because it's not like, oh, every week I've got to move something in order to be part of that. And I think, you know, when you're setting up an accountability group, I think one thing that's worked really well for us is that we've tried everything possible to remove the friction. We haven't had to try too hard. We picked a really good time that we've just stuck to. Even when we're on leave or when we're delivering or doing whatever, you know, it's not a problem. If we can't meet that week, we'll meet the alternate week. So that consistency, removing any of the friction. So we don't have which location are we going to pick to meet this week because we're just in the same Zoom room. You know, the time factor. The consistency also is that we're very respectful around. We have a beautiful way of handing over the baton, and you can probably get a sense of that when you're listening to this podcast as someone who's not in our accountability group, but we're very respectful of, so Sam, what do you think? Hey, Maria, you know, we don't have to say, hey, Maria, we haven't heard from you, or Sam, we haven't heard from you, or Rita, you're never going to have to say that, Rita, we haven't heard from you. But, you know, like we have a really beautiful flow to handing over the baton to each other. So we're hearing it from each other. I think there's an intuition because we've known each other that long now. There's an intuition around Maria or Sam or Rita look like they've got something on their mind that they want to share, or they need a bit more of a hug from us this week, or you know, oh my gosh, we're going to have to really jump in on the excitement bandwagon because they're excited about something. Like I think there's a lot of intuition in our group too, and that respect.
True. Yeah, and I think that's just, I mean, that's a testament to putting in the time and the commitment with one another. And actually, like feeling that you're in a safe space where you can share all of those things, and you start to pick up on all of those wonderful nuances that we each have in how we show up, and be able to play off of them and leverage them, which has been so helpful for me, especially. Like I am a card carrying introvert, and so it's like, I would quite happily sit back and let people speak and share and fill up the room, but in this space, it's very apparent that it's like, no, we want and need to hear your voice. And I think that's been such a gift to be a part of a group that is very in tune with that, for sure.
It actually brings me to a point around our diversity. So we are diverse because culturally we're different, right? We're coming from all different parts of the world. Then we have our cultural, ethnic backgrounds on top of that, that I'm Australian, but I've got an Italian background. So then we've got that. We have very different personality styles, the three of us. We are all very, very different. And yet where there's the risk of so much tension and frustration because of the difference, I have genuinely never felt that with either of you. I have always felt enriched by our difference.
Yes.
And I know you're nodding. For those of you that are listening, Maria and Sam are nodding, and it's not because I told them to nod beforehand, by the way. They're nodding. I think they're nodding genuinely. Do you guys, that cognitive diversity that we bring, and more of that it's more than cognitive diversity. I reckon that's a real strength of our accountability group.
I really agree. And what's really fascinated me is how we've been talking today actually about what we do as our expertise. So we've been talking about how understanding one another, Maria, is just top of the list, that's really what helps our accountability to move forward. You obviously perked up my ears when you mentioned the word intuition, because that's my field. And Rita, from your side, it's all about how we communicate with one another. You can't be a leader deliberately or otherwise unless you can communicate. So I think we're bringing that professional expertise, but we're also using it for our personal benefit. And I really love that. And certainly we are definitely, just looking at us, physically, we're all different. There's not too many people that look like me. I do stand out in a crowd, and Maria possibly doesn't. But I think the fact that we've covered a massive spectrum just with our differences. And to me, that makes us more than the three people that we are here. That big spectrum coverage is really important to how this group works so well.
Yeah. And I think it's just been demonstrated through a real respect for one another, and also an acceptance of knowing that we all come from very different backgrounds, yet we all have gifts to share with one another. And there's never been a question of that. And do we agree all of the time? Probably not.
Do some of us overshare? Definitely.
Right, but that's okay. Like we accept that is part of that is part of the beautiful legacy that we have as a group. I think is that we really show up in a way that it's just like, I know that I probably may not agree with you on this, but that is okay. We're allowed to do that. And I have tremendous respect for your thinking, what you've talked about, the thought you've put into things. And if we don't land in the same space, that's okay. That is absolutely okay.
I think that's another pillar in a good accountability group, where we're not there to change anyone. We're not, that acceptance even we have nutted through some really challenging on the business side, but we've written books, we've launched new businesses, we've changed our practices, we've done so much in the 4 years. And our job, I think, as accountability partners is not to convince the other. If we're holding that space, we are being invited. The ask of us is share your feedback, share your ideas, bring your wisdom. But it's not our job to convince one another. I've never, ever, ever felt that either of you have done that, and I certainly hope I haven't. We're forthright in our opinions, but it's like, you do you, dude. Like, you do what you want to do. Here's a view, and here's another view, and here's another view, and then you do what you want with that. So that acceptance, I think, comes from that deep respect that I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to make you agree with me. I'm not here to shove my point of view down your throat so you go, yep, I must. Like, there's been none of that. There's a real deep respect and a deep respect for the wisdom and experience that we bring.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's times when those other perspectives are perhaps the most critical thing that we can offer each other, especially if one of us is, gone down some kind of rabbit hole, because it can happen, or you're having the worst day of the week or the month. And you just need another perspective that you may not adopt, but that reminds you that there are other perspectives. And I love the fact that we do that for one another.
Because we're almost on time, so we've got a few minutes left, but is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes.
Oh,
so my question is, what are you, and it's not one that was scripted, sorry. So much for coming up with 6 questions. I haven't asked any of them. What's the thing that you are most proud of over the last 4 years that this group has been able to help you with? And I'm happy while you're thinking, do you want me to just, is it easier if I just give a perspective first?
Yeah, yes. Share yours first. Yeah.
So it's actually not a thing I've done. Like, it's not books, it's not programs, it's not building the business, it's not websites. The thing I'm most proud of is being able to become more vulnerable and know that that is part of my evolutionary learning journey, and you two have been able to facilitate that for me. So that is, I'm most proud of myself, and I have utmost gratitude to both of you for that.
Wow. That's amazing, Rita. That is amazing. Thank you.
You've created that space.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, I was going to say, go ahead, Maria, because I might cry. Am I going ahead? Okay. Well, for me, it's, and this is going to sound, again, it's really weird because it's nothing to do with the professional side of things. For me, you guys have helped me stick with it through the emotions of the last few years, through the real difficulties that I faced during the betrayals that I felt around the pandemic, and the courage I needed to get back up and go again. Then I left the program that we were all in together, and you still stood by me, and that was amazing. And I've had a few turbulent moments over the last year with my wonderful children, in particular, my most amazing daughter, who is harder to raise than all of her brothers put together. And you guys have been there every step of the way, just listening to the stuff that's going on. And in some cases saying, yep, that's similar in my house, but mostly just reminded me to stick with it. So I think that whole, for me, being able to stick with the difficult emotions, when I come from a family heritage where people have chosen other addictive pathways rather than sticking with the difficult emotions, that has been huge. So I can't thank you both enough for the emotional, vulnerable support that you've given to me too. Really love it.
Beautiful. Yes, big hugs, big hugs. I think for me, yeah, it's not a tangible thing at all. It's very intangible, and it's feeling a sense of belonging, and a sense of being able to show up in the space and share exactly what my thoughts are on things and feel like that's a safe space to do it. And then also being, I think, willing to hear something that I may not have wanted to hear. So allowing myself to be open to that. And I'm used to having, all my squares done and everything perfectly organized ahead of time. And I think what I've learned is that it's much more productive and much more valuable when I bring in things that are, halfway done, a third done, a quarter done, and I'm testing them. And that has just given, like, I just felt like this was the space where I belonged and was allowed to do that.
I love that. Do you remember when you were completing your book and the conclusion was just such a challenge? And
it
yet,
was a huge challenge. And that was the space where it was just like, there were all these little steps that you had to take, and I couldn't have it all perfectly formed. And it was okay to come into this space and share that, these partial ideas, these partial accomplishments, these partial pieces and concepts with you. And it was accepted as such and known that there was space to grow. But it just really felt like this is the first space where I've been able to do that.
So valuable.
When we said about a few weeks ago, I said, what would it look like if we recorded one of our accountability conversations? And I didn't really know. I mean, I know over the last week, we're like, come up with a few questions, and we didn't have a real structure around it, which is how we kind of come in. I've written down here, no prep, but ... Like we kind of just, it's a space where you don't have this pressure around, I've got to do all this thing before I come in. But, you've got an accountability to do the thinking and to test that thinking, but what we bring is up to us. What we take away from it is up to us. And this conversation is so much, I knew it would be good, but it's actually so much better than what I thought. Just hearing the reflections, and it feels like, almost like, are we, that we're winding up the accountability group? No way. Like, you guys are like wedded to me now through thick and thin. We'll continue to meet. But this has been a really nice tribute to what we've been able to do together over the last 4 years. And I don't know why the universe has made it that we do it on this day and, this time. There's no particular reason, rhyme or reason to it, but I'm really grateful that we've just spent the time reflecting on what these 4 years have done. What I'm hoping is that we, if you're thinking about starting up an accountability group, do not hesitate. Just go and find people. Don't even think about the type of people that you're going to find. Just go and find people. The right people will be attracted to you and what what you need, what you've got to offer, as it has for us. Go with, I think 3 is nice. Don't freak out if, I'm not getting 5 or 6 or 10 respond. That's all good. I think 3 is good. For us, it certainly meant great, deep conversation and where we can hold each other, to account, which is what we've been put together to do.
Definitely. And just to add in, as you know, I do love a weird spiritual ending, that we are at the equinox. So if you happen to be where Maria is over in the northern hemisphere, it's the spring equinox, but for Rita and I, it's the autumn equinox, and it's the time of perfect balance. And for me, accountability is that. Certainly in our accountability group, it brings us all so much balance. So it's the right time to go and do one if you haven't got one already.
There you go. There was a reason for this date.
And thank you, Rita. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for hosting this conversation again. And this has been so lovely. It's such a joy to be with you both, always.
And to continue to inspire one another.
That's right, each and every Friday. Well, on that note, for both of you, I wish you well in your weekends and your week ahead. And we're going to be same channel, same place, without the live, aspect next week. But I look forward to connecting with you both again next week.
Me too.
See you both soon. Have a great week.
Bye.
Hi, it's Rita, and we've just finished our podcast on the Deliberate Leader with my accountability group, and I was joined by Samantha Jung-Fielding and Maria deBruijn. I hope you love this episode as much as what we loved recording it. It was a real joy to be able to reflect on our last 4 years together as an accountability group, why we are still together, how we hold each other to account, our secret sauce for accountability. We delve into accountability by definition, but then we really get into, what's helped us. And some of the things that came through were, our connection, our consistency, our care towards one another, our commitment, and then our respect, and this level of intuition that we have. Finally, we finished on the topic of acceptance. And I think if you're part of an accountability group, it's not, there for you to convince someone else or make them agree with your perspective. It is there to show utmost respect and acceptance, and really just to work through ideas, and really be there for each other. So this was a really, really special episode, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed bringing it together for you. See you soon.